Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog. Today we're going to be doing things a little differently, but I want to dive right into it and talk about everything that we've done since the last one. First things first, we got the hotbar back in, and it's pretty great. It's actually a little different than what it used to be. The hotbar that you're currently on is now in the middle. Your combat mode is still displayed in the top right, but the attack timer is now this little sword that travels all the way across your hotbar while it fills up. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that now. Selecting the dummy, and as you can see, there is now a new UI for the dummy HP bar. And we'll go ahead and engage with him. And you'll see the sword kind of travel along and fill up the hotbar as it goes. And then rest there right as you're ready to initiate an auto attack. And you're in the distance required to do it. So pretty cool stuff. You'll also notice that there are now 2 new abilities on the hotbar that weren't there before. Well, 1, because the hotbar wasn't there, and 2, because the abilities just didn't exist. The first one being Mountain Strikes. This is the first 1 hour on Warrior. Makes all of your auto attacks and physical strikes crit no matter what. It's pretty great. And then the second ability is First Slash. This just is a auto attack that is not on the auto attack timer. It does reset your auto attack timer, so make sure to use it after you just swung if you're in an instance where you're not going to be swinging for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the abilities working, so we'll go ahead and just use Mountain Strikes. The animation is slightly different than what it used to be, but I still feel it kind of fits. And let's go ahead and just test out number 2. If we go ahead and press it from this distance, you'll notice it's not doing anything. But if we run up to him, you'll notice the auto attack triggers, and we can also press 2, which generates a faux sword to swing with. It does not trigger a secondary attack. Like, for example, Monk, it will not trigger your offhand attack, and if you're dual wielding, it won't trigger your secondary weapon attack either. So just be wary of that. It's just your main hand weapon, but it will trigger double attack, triple attack, and quadruple attack procs that trigger off your main hand. Now, before we move on from the hotbar, I want to go over a couple of things and show off a couple of bugs as well, so let's do that now. If we press Q or E, that will cycle between our hotbars. We're currently on 1 at the moment, but if we press E, that'll go forward a hotbar. If we press Q, that'll cycle back a hotbar. And currently, if we go forward a bunch of hotbars, our cooldown text does not hide. It's a small bug, but I just wanted to show that off. But if we were to go back, it will update. And as you can see, it went down from 0.6 to 0.4, and now it's incrementing down appropriately as well. So still pretty cool. And if we click on any ability slot, it will open up the skill tray, revealing the other abilities available to our class. As you can see, we still have an ability we haven't bound on our hotbar, Eyes on Me, which is this game's version of Provoke. So pretty cool. Anyways, let's move on from the hotbar and talk about other things. One thing I want to talk about is the inventory screen. I changed it a little bit than what it used to be, and you'll notice it now can be moved, unlike the previous version. So you can click and drag, move this wherever you want, and then if you hover over any ability, any item inside of the inventory, the tooltip updates accordingly, showing you the stats, values, and classes that can wear it. So pretty cool. And again, the inventory now can be moved, so pretty big update. You'll notice down here, we have little tooltips or icons for the new menu system that I'm putting in. Similar to the old one, but a little bit more flashy, and I think a little bit more snappy. Let's move on to the gear swap menu. Some of y'all might recognize that name, especially if you play Final Fantasy XI right now and you use Windower. It's a very, very popular mod. Essentially, it allows you to bind gear sets or set up gear sets to use on pretty much any ability, any state, anything that you can pretty much think of. You can bind a gear set to that. And that's essentially what the gear swap menu is. It allows you to bind gear sets to combat states. If you've watched my other devlogs in the past, I had a similar system set up, but they were kind of in different menus. Again, this consolidates everything in the one place. So at the moment, I don't have any combat modes bound to my class except for default. You have 50 to choose from, and of course you can rename them if you want, but at the moment we're not going to worry about that. We're simply going to bind some combat modes. We'll go ahead and bind 17 and 3, and we'll go ahead and confirm that. If we go back to the drop-down menu again, it will show up that we have 17 and 3 along with default. We'll switch to 17. We'll go ahead and bind 8 to engaged, and we'll go ahead and bind 3 to idle. We'll switch to 3, and we'll go ahead and bind 7 to, I guess, guard. And if we switch over to default, you'll notice no gear sets are bound to any of the combat states. And if we go back to 17, you'll notice that 3 and 8 are set up. And if we go back to 3, you'll notice that 7 is still set up as our guard. Very nice. So that's the gear swap menu. That's all I can really show you today with it. There's still a lot of other functions that need to be integrated into this, but getting the UI set up to make it feel good was one of the most important things that I felt that needed to be done, and I'm happy that I did it. So more on this next devlog for sure, especially when we have to integrate the gear swap with the abilities and binding different gear sets to different abilities. So we'll go ahead and just close the gear swap menu. We're going to open back up our inventory because I feel that I actually missed something, and I wanted to show y'all that if I go ahead and equip my gear and reopen the inventory, it'll show you that those are now equipped. So that is just a small little thing that I felt like I'd share with y'all. All right, and the last thing that I want to go over is the new map and the new NPC logic to go along with it. So I think last devlog I talked about enemy NPC logic and how it kind of worked from afar. If there was no players around, they would kind of like not replicate, shut off their movement, and the server would just not even worry about them. And then they would create a faux movement on the player to have them moving in the distance. I'm doing something similar for the actual NPCs, the stuff that will generate crowds and a bunch of movement and bring the city to life a little bit. It won't have the NPCs or a bunch of the other interacting NPCs that will be doing a bunch of manual labor jobs around in the area, but for these particular NPCs, then the way they work is essentially they have spline paths that they follow that are set up all around the map, and I'm going to go ahead and show you all that now. The best way to do that is kind of doing an unlit view of the map, just so you can actually view the splines. And then at the end of the splines, you'll see a red arrow, and at the start of each spline, you'll see a green arrow, and you'll notice there are clusters of start and stop splines all around this area and at intersections. So essentially, I had to map out roads for every single path that these NPCs can take, and then I'll lay out an NPC, write down on a piece of paper every single spline that they can take and the path that they're going to take along it, and then the server kind of does the rest. And then on the client side is where they handle all the movement. Server doesn't move the characters around, the player does. The server, all it kind of does is keep track about which spline the NPC is supposed to be at, and that's essentially it. It just sends a small list every single time the NPC needs to move on all the player clients, and then the player handles the movement from there. If, for example, someone loads into a map late, and their NPCs aren't where they're supposed to be, they know that, and they kind of enable a catch-up that kind of signals to the NPC that it needs to run faster, so it'll play different animations along the splines. You want to see it in action, so let's go ahead and do that now. We're not going to be testing this on the server. We're going to be testing this just on the client in the engine, just to kind of give you a baseline of how performant this thing actually is. So let's go ahead and teleport up and walk into the city. You'll notice that there is some new sound effects that I've done, especially if you're entering in cities. This kind of adds to it. Also, I added in footstep effects for the NPCs. It makes them, again, feel more alive. They are the same NPCs, unfortunately. I will be adding a variety to them as we get further along in development. I just had to set them up and make sure that they moved correctly and they followed the splines correctly. But I'm not going to follow those two. There's some more moving around the city, so we'll go ahead and take a look at those. But as you can see, there are a ton of skeletal mesh actors all throughout this map right now, and they all are animated. Yeah, it's quite a sight, guys, quite a sight. And this is all in engine at Epic's performance scaling, I'm pretty sure. Let's just check that real quick. Yep, everything is on Epic. Screen percentage is at 100%. And with most of the updates out of the way, there's only a couple of things I want to say. One, I want to try to have the alpha client ready for the Patreon backers before the next devlog goes live, so that way you can playtest and give me some feedback on how the camera controls, how the abilities work, and how snappy everything feels. That's going to involve a lot of work, so I'm going to get to it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Been a blast, and I hope that the next devlog I have a lot more to share with you.